Welcome to Kennedy Saves the World. I am, in fact, still your Kennedalia. I am Kennedy, and I had an interesting story this week on my show that got everyone on the staff of the show talking. And then when we talked about it with the panelists, you know, some people laugh, some people eschew the entire idea that perhaps there is a galactic force, an interspecies galactic force with an understanding between the United States government and LGMs. And in fact, aliens are among us. They're doing studies here. The United States government has a very hush-hush agreement. And this, of course, according to Chaim Eshed, who is an 87-year-old former head of the Israeli Defense Ministry's Space Directorate. That was his job for quite some time, for decades. And now he's like, I'm 87. I'm throwing off the muzzle, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. And he said that there are aliens, and he went as far to say that there is a colony deep within the confines and crust of Mars where there are, in fact, aliens and U.S. astronauts working together. So if there are any missing astronauts on the side of milk cartons, fear not. They are probing away in Martian bliss somewhere in the nether regions of the red planet. So that's exciting. The idea that there is a galactic force, I don't know, maybe he said President Trump almost spilled the beans. But then there are people who pleaded with him to stay mum so we could circumvent any mass panic. And my thinking is there's no way that President Trump would be muzzled about anything, alien or otherwise. And mass panic is sort of part of his brand. So I think he would use it to his advantage. So I don't know that I believe that story. I don't know that he's been entrusted with the information. I don't know that the information exists. But I was raised by a mom who very firmly believes in aliens. And so she is the type of person, just like the pre-Socratic philosophers who looked up into the heavens and saw a quadrillion stars. And, you know, she thought to herself, as we all do, there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be a greater explanation that we haven't quite hit on. And a lot of those people, they naturally assume, and I would put myself into that camp, the probability of this being the only planet flung off from a piece of rock from the sun that somehow was hospitable to ever-changing life. There have to be, with 2 trillion galaxies in our universe alone, never mind the multiverse theory. Let's say there is one universe and there's that many galaxies with a quadrillion stars in each of them. The mathematical improbability of our solitude means that there are other things out there. Are they single cell little tiny bits that lived in what was once water and is now ice in various places? Yeah, probably most of them. But if we evolved to look into the heavens and want some order and some explanation and marry that with imagination and curiosity, then clearly there are other people like that. And so if there are others like that, the ultimate question is, have they visited Earth? And, you know, there are those, like my mom, who feel that there is such a great possibility that there's something out there that they just insert, oh, well, it's got to be aliens. And there are other people who just want to believe. They want to believe that there is a larger story that we're not being told, that someone somewhere is withholding information. And they also believe in the supernatural, because when there are gaps in explanation, it's much easier and more comforting to insert your own. And so people who believe in sort of the blanket supernaturalism, and I was a huge fan of the Art Bell radio show. God rest his soul. I really did. I didn't buy into every single topic on his show, but I loved the curiosity and respect that he gave to various people. And it wasn't just aliens. It was ghosts and Bigfoot and all sorts of supernatural phenomena. And there are people like that who are very interesting to listen to. And I love their curiosity, and I love that they are non-traditional thinkers who won't be told what to believe. But the people whose stories I'm most interested in are the skeptics with scientific backgrounds who have had direct experience that they cannot explain that are beyond our scientific explanation capabilities. And so that's when you get people like fighter pilots and, even commercial airline pilots who see things, who are trained to categorize and rationally separate what might scare someone else into, different realms that are acceptable and explainable. And when they don't have an explanation, that's when I am all in. So I don't know if they're here. I don't know what they want. I'm really curious to see how they got here and if we can use their technology to finally have flying cars that aren't going to bump into each other, and all of the ways that our lives might be better once our alien overlords arrive. And I'm willing to dust off a cot for them and just know that I'm your friend. I love math. I've seen Contact. I know how it goes. That's why I took calculus as an elective, just so we'd have something to chat about. And I'm not alone in my not aloneness. And now, joining the podcast, Seth Shostak. He's a senior astronomer at the SETI Institute. And he's the one who directs the search for extraterrestrials. He's looking for evidence. He's looking for intelligence out there in the great beyond. And SETI started as a NASA-funded project. Dr. Shostak has a PhD in astronomy from Caltech, which is next to UCLA, the finest technological institute in the entire country. So take that, MIT. Dr. Shostak, thank you so much for being here. I'm delighted to have you.
It's a real pleasure, Kennedy. And I take it maybe you went to UCLA. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I did. How did you know? Yes, go Bruins. Well, that's so exciting.
A wild guess.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that pilots have seen, either in the military or commercial pilots. And when we finally get sort of public examples of these highly trained individuals, is that a way for governments to sort of soften the beach so we slowly come to accept the realization that aliens are either here or they're going to visit real soon? What is your take?
Well, here's my take. I hope this doesn't disappoint you, Kennedy, but the facts are that roughly 1/3 of the American public, and 1/3 of the public in Europe and Australia, Japan, any of these sort of first, second world countries. I'm not sure which ones are the second world countries, but 1/3 of the population is down with the idea that indeed the aliens are here buzzing the skies. Mm-hmm. So, it's not a fringe belief. I mean, 11%, I think it is, of the population thinks Santa Claus is real. But 11% of the population is under the age of 9. So, that may not mean quite the same thing. A lot of people think it's true. And most of those people think that the feds are covering up, that they know the aliens are here and they don't want to tell the public because the public couldn't handle the news.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's silly because, in fact, the public could handle the news, right? 1/3 of them believe it already. If you were to open up your browser tomorrow or pull the paper off your driveway and it said, government confirms aliens visiting Earth, would you start, rioting in the streets? Would you go completely nuts? Would you quit your job? Would you kick the spouse out?
No.
Would you,
well,
stop
maybe it's the
watering
last
the plants?
One. No, but you know what I would do? I would immediately go buy more toilet paper because I know that that's what people are going for first. I've got enough canned beans. All right, it's not going to be a pleasant place in my domicile because all we got is beans, quinoa, and oatmeal. So it's you're going to have a gassy chassis or two in my village. But people freak out over toilet paper, but I think this is the perfect time because people have been working from home. There's so much uncertainty. They've seen the seams of society falling apart with, various riots and skirmishes and protests that become violent. And so now I think is the best time because it might actually be the most unifying news we could get because we're so used to this us versus them mentality. Democrat versus Republican, black versus white, men versus...
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.